Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Fintech Ki Baat Dil Se. Today we have with us Mr. Anurag Sinha, founder of Onecard, which is one of the most sought after credit cards in India as of now because of multiple features and variations that they have. So, Anurag sir, quickly, I know you don't need much of an introduction, but could you just quickly take us through a bit of a background, a brief
Yeah,
intro about yourself?
awesome. So, Shreyas, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. So, a bit about myself. You know, uh, did my engineering, worked for a couple of years in a tech company, and did my MBA and joined a bank, ICICI Bank, as a management trainee. Was very
Mm-hmm.
lucky to be there when the bank was shifting their focus from a wholesale finance company to become a retail bank. So, got an opportunity to work in areas like payments and unsecured lending. Spent quite amount of time worked in the industry to build a lot of solutions. Post 2012-13, I happened to be running few payment businesses at the bank, and I was very fortunate to see from very close quarters how consumer interfaces were taking shape in payments as the first place where transaction was shifting from bank to non-bank.
Hmm.
So I made my switch, and I my first startup was a company called Walnut, which was a personal finance mobile app. Was there for 3 years, scaled up to 10 million plus users, built out some interesting
Wow.
products around lending,
Mm-hmm.
and then post 2018 it got acquired by Capital Float, and this is my second startup, FPL Technologies, where we have built two products, one score and one card. Essentially, the problem remains the same. We want to solve consumption credit because we believe India is a young nation and with lots of aspiration, but affordability is there because income levels yet to catch up, and that's a large gap to finance. But we have taken a slightly different approach this time. We chose credit card as a product vehicle to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we launched another product called One Score, which
Mm-hmm.
is essentially to build a community of credible users because we believe that if you have to solve at scale consumption credit for India, it's our job also to build a platform to help people understand and educate them how to manage their credit health, especially for a country like India, which has such a large number of people so young as they start their life or other financial life. We want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they understand how, as they access this credit to build their life, they should do it in the right manner. And that's how we run these two products in parallel, one score and one card. So that's about a
Right.
brief introduction. We are a Pune-based fintech. There's another point I want to point out. So I was in Mumbai for quite some time, and then I shifted my base to
Mm.
Pune to build this.
Probably one of the most popular fintechs based out of Pune, I must say. And it must have, I mean, it definitely has been a very interesting journey hearing what all you've gone through. I could probably see a lot of what you say connecting the dots kind of a scene. So if you, I don't know if you must have heard of something called when you look back in retrospect, you could connect the dots of your every decision that you make, and everywhere you have been in your life, in your career, you can actually connect the dots to see where you have been, right? How it has led you here. So is that a phenomena with you as well? I have seen that to be phenomena with majority of the startup founders.
You know, when I joined bank after 2003, I've done
Mm-hmm.
all my education in corporate finance, and I just
Mm-hmm.
happened to join bank in 2003, and I was posted in credit cards. Now, in 2003, credit card was like such a small product. It
Mm-hmm.
was very. We were surprised that why bank wants to do credit cards. Like
Right.
how big is this? Why are we solving this problem? Because I most of the people who join would be in corporate banking, in treasury, or in
Mm-hmm.
branches. These are the three
Right.
roles people do in banks. But out of serendipity, I happen to be in cards. And to
Mm-hmm.
be fair, I did not even join credit cards team. I was actually
Mm-hmm.
my mandate was to build a supply chain finance solution. And this was
Okay.
2003. There were no APIs, there was no host-to-host connectivity, what which we talk about
Mm-hmm.
today. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to build a solution which can be integrated to the ERP systems. ERP system had just come in, by the way, in most of the
Oh.
clients we were working.
Mm-hmm.
And the traditional lending system was core banking, which was not easy to integrate. So I discovered
Mm-hmm.
cards. I said, okay, fine, you can integrate with supply chain on the acquiring side, and you can administer the credit on the issuing side. So I happened to launch the first commercial card way back in 2003. This was
Wow.
primarily to do supply chain financing, nothing to do with credit cards, by
Mm-hmm.
the way.
Right.
And just so be it, I'm like, we launched products like, we used to finance supply chains like oil, downstream oil.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to work with companies like HPCL, BPCL, IOCL, funding their dealers to buy from them. These were like high value cards, like you give lines worth 10 crores, 8 crores.
Right.
And the line will get used almost by 20, 30 crore by the same customer in a month. So it was almost like a working capital financing. We worked on interesting use cases like FMCG, rural, wherever there was a high speed transaction being done, we disrupted the supply chain on cards. So it was,
Mm-hmm.
that's how, like, and today when I say, okay, fine, in fact, my co-founder Vibhav had a, much longer, deeper experience in consumer cards.
Okay.
And now we are building a consumer company. So as you rightly said, we never knew what I would, my mandate was to do something else, but I happened to
Mm-hmm.
choose cards. I just fell in love with that because it was just so much of data which you were generating and you can capturing, and you can use the data to underwrite or improve experience and manage risk very early in my career, and which kind of
Definitely.
continued, like
Mm-hmm.
how can you use data for underwriting, risk management, customer experience, and things like that.
Right. That piece is also, I think, reflected in how you build Walnut. Right? It was entirely built around data.
Absolutely. So Walnut was a very interesting use case. In fact, it was set up ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
Amit and Patan had set up the company ahead of me. And
Okay.
initially, the use case was not even fintech, by the way. It was
Mm-hmm.
supposedly an assistance app. The idea was that whatever we are reading in the SMS can be used
Mm-hmm.
to offer a customer experience. Now, if I take you
Right.
back
Right.
in 2014-15, your Ola OTPs used to come in SMS, your Book My Show tickets
Yes. Yes.
will come in OTP, your train tickets, your mobile, your air tickets will come on OTPs, like in SMSs. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what we learned that most of the Indians have started using WhatsApp for personal messaging. So whatever data is left in your inbox is largely SMS data. The second insight we had was, unlike US market, which was an email first market for my
Mm-hmm.
corporate communication, India is a SMS first market because
True.
everyone has a phone, not everyone has an email.
Agreed.
So that's why majority of the corporate communication, which is businesses communicating to consumer, was on SMS. So that's how we
Mm-hmm.
built. But we discovered a lot of data was financial data. So we then shifted our use case to a fintech app. I joined actually after that, once the company had shifted their focus to fintech. So I joined
Okay.
as a third co-founder to build,
Mm-hmm.
financial use cases there. So pretty interesting journey. We were lucky to scale to 10 million users over 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the data we had was very similar to the way a card data has, because you talk about transactions, categories, frequency, recency. So we built a scorecard of our own and launched a line of credit product, which you can consume in form of small ticket loans. Now, there was no merchant angle to it because we launched this in
Mm-hmm.
2017 when UPI had not taken over, or rather, the UPI had not become
Right.
the way it has become now. So we
Right.
didn't
Right.
think of a merchant angle then. We thought of
Mm-hmm.
giving loans to consumers' account. So, and then we got acquired by Capital Float after Series A. So they were looking for a consumer company, and we were debating in our
Mm-hmm.
heads: should we remain as a tech company or should we remain become a finance company? So this
Right. Right.
offer
Right.
came along, and the team took it. I left after that. So after
Okay.
acquisition, I left after
Mm-hmm.
that because I wanted to build something from scratch around consumer credit, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I left and took a break of around 7-8 months before I started my next company.
So,
Definitely.
just to take it over from here, I think you just mentioned that you wanted to build something from scratch. And I think the way you spoke about cards a while back, I have never seen anyone talk with that passion about credit cards. And I think it's been one hell of a journey for you. So, just 2 points here. What was your inspiration to kind of start this? And what was your inspiration basically to leave the job to start this particular thing from the scratch if everything was sorted out?
Okay, so that I'll have to take you back to the bank because as I said, I was fortunate to see close quarters how people were adopting to platforms like Paytm, MobiKwik, and we were banker to them. Essentially, we were doing the back end work, and so I was always been passionate about technology solutions. Of course, in bank, usually you buy tech, you don't build tech. So that was my motivation that I was looking to. I'm like, I sincerely believe that the future of consumer interface in financial services will be built by fintechs. And that has been my area of interest. And that's why I shifted. But interesting point, I want to give you an insight around why did we choose card as a product vehicle. And so I built a line of credit products which people can consume in loans. I learned my big lesson during that period was people take loans for very specific needs, and they are usually time sensitive. Like you want to buy a TV, you need a loan for that. You want to buy a car, you want to lean for that, and you need loan in next like 20 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, or whatever period you want to buy. Either you borrow from someone else, or the need goes away. And whatever experience you build for customers, they have to remember you in their loan moment. If they don't, then you have to incur the toll tax to Facebook, Google to get in front of the customer. And that's why the CAC just doesn't come down. And that was my biggest insight. In fact, I stepped back and I looked at even at bank when I've run PL businesses. There also when we source customers from DSAs, we didn't make money on that portion because the cost of distribution was too high. But almost 60 to 65% of the loans were given to existing customers either in form of cross sell or top ups, which is what brings down your cost of sourcing. So, big insight that you have to build for engagement. So I was while consumer consumption credit was a very obvious opportunity to solve. However, we thought we need to build a product which is more engagement oriented rather than disbursement oriented. And that's how we chose card as a product vehicle. In fact, I remember a lot of VCs used to ask me in the beginning, not only VCs, my team members used to ask me. And I gave them a good analogy. Said, look at Bajaj Finance. They're the market leader in unsecured lending, massive brand and massive distribution. What do? They give you a card, they give you a loan at the point of sale, and then they actually cross-sell you other loans. That's how they build engagement. Also, they give you an EMI card in a way to remind you so that you can use it again. And third is now they've actually launched their own credit cards with banks like RBL and DBS.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing is that this business, the only way you can build a sustainable business if you're able to drive engagement. So we thought, why not build a product which has an inbuilt engagement like credit cards, and that was our inspiration to do that. So as a company, we are quite aware that Indian consumers are very discerning in nature. What works today will not work tomorrow. Like in a country where UPI has taken over everyone, and net banking still survives because there are some Indians who continue to use that. That's how diverse we are. So, while credit card is our launch product vehicle, we would love to build other products which are all in consumption credit cycle. But again, the focus will be to drive engagement, not necessarily only disbursement. That's how we have defined our mandate.
Mm. But I think on that point, what you just spoke about, I think sorts out the distribution model of credit card, right? But of how I look at one card is more of a full stack kind of a product, right? So how was your journey from just sorting out a distribution model to going to the
Yeah,
full stack and having all of that in one app?
yeah. So actually, good point. We actually took two, three design choices very early on. The first design choice we built was, the full stack, what you rightly said. And again, insight came from the business itself that credit card is a very high touch product. Unlike any other lending product where your relationship usually gets over once you've taken the loan. Like if you don't default, nobody's going to call you. But in credit card, actually, your journey starts once you've taken the card. It's like a heavy duty product, EMIs, rewards, disputes, frauds, offers. And what we noticed are two things. One, majorly customer engagement is through call center. Now, it was an innovation in 90 when the next best option was to visit a branch. I think today people want better experiences around that. That's one. Second thing, another insight we noticed was if you look at the technology stack of Indian banks on the core banking side, which is also very transaction intensive, it's actually fairly advanced. And the reason is most of the core banking stack in India is built in India, used by banks, is built in India by Indian vendors like Infosys, TCS, and iFlex, and that's why they keep iterating with their Indian banks. However, if you look at the credit card stack, they're all built in US in 90s by companies like First Data and like T Systems. And even if we do work with them, and I happen to be their clients by the way for more than 10 years, a large one, so we know their system. The dev teams are not in India. No, even if the intent is there to solve it, and there's no dev team in India. So the dev cycles are very very long. So we were very early in deciding this that okay, if you have to change the customer experience for the full stack, which is like not only about sourcing but about engagement, repayments, then you got to build full stack. So these two things came together, and there was another insight, which was our second design choice. We work exclusively with banks as of now on the balance sheet side because, as you know, in India only banks are allowed to issue credit cards as of now, and so we work with them. And the idea was that if you are not building your own tech stack, then it is difficult to partner with banks who don't do card business. And another thing we noticed was like 4 to 5 banks control 75% plus market share. So we thought that if we build our own tech stack, not only we can offer a good customer experience to our customers, we can also partner with those banks who don't do card business. And so that in a way, it becomes a very important part of our strategy. It is easier said than done because credit card stacks are very complex one. Second thing is you have to get it certified. You cannot just launch it just like that. So while the belief was there, it was a long journey for us to build that. Uh, I also want to talk about the third design choice was how do we get these customers? Now, we believe that credit card is a full product because there are more than 100 million people who are eligible for a credit card. It's a highly underpenetrated product. And I would give more credit to merchants rather than banks to popularize this concept of digital credit. But we thought that how we are different is that as a company we are focused on mid-market risk. So we see there is a large number of customers already sitting in the bureau who don't have a product like credit card, and hence we launched OneScore as our first product and kind of built the community of users who we want to underwrite. Also gave us a lot of data for us to build our credit models on early on. And third, as I mentioned before, also the idea was to help them understand how to manage good credit. Because mind you, credit card is a very flexible product, but it's also very dangerous if you don't know how to manage your revolving credit. And especially the credit card businesses are very profitable across the world because the customer stays with you for a long time. But if this customer doesn't stay with you because they default, then it is not good for us, good for them. And so we thought that we are dealing with younger customers. It's our job to teach them how to manage a good credit. And that's how so these are the three designs. So full stack business, credit score as a starting point, and partnering with the bank. These are very unique thing for us, which differentiates us a lot from other fintechs who are trying to solve similar problems.
I think I have not seen this much amount of clarity in first the gap that is there in the industry and then the GTM strategy that one has taken. Over to you, Shreyas.
And as in just building on what Sagarika said, I think this has been one of the, I mean, best executed awareness first GTM strategies that has been there, right? I think I was probably one of the first people to download the OneScore app once I had visited your office last year, I think, back when you were planning to launch the card. And after that, जब card का waitlist लगा, and I saw that it was, I mean, the buzz that it had created in the communities that I was in, like multiple fintech communities, and I was like, यार ये इतना जल्दी ये startup without any marketing, how is this happening? I mean, there was hardly any marketing that I saw. मतलब, now I do see a few marketing campaigns here and there, but earlier so it was not there, and I'm like, okay, this is like a phenomena that had happened, and it was all around the positioning that you had done, right? And I mean, that was brilliant. Building on top of that, how do you essentially see adoption of credit card as a whole product, right? Not just one card, but the entire ecosystem for credit card. How do you see the adoption for it going forward? Do you think,
Yeah.
I mean, let's awareness campaigns like yours will definitely help, but when you look at an entire thing, do you think there is a need for a better awareness campaign overall for the Indian audience?
Okay. Awesome. So, good point. Uh, as I mentioned before, see, India has always been a very diverse market and consumers are very discerning. So I think a single product will not fit all, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Now, there are three things required to actually, grow this market. So one is availability of lendable customers, because this underlying product is a great product. So the first point I want to
Right.
address that we estimate as a company there are 100 million people in this country who should be given a credit card. Now, you can arrive at this number through various means. Look at a
Hmm.
subset of people who are doing UPI, look at a subset of people holding more than 10,000 rupee bank balance. We have come to this number by looking at the data in the bureau. Already
Hmm.
400 million people in India hold a bureau score because of a retail needs. If and the thing is that as the India is expanding beyond top 50 cities, essentially the credit, so it becomes like these profiles are appearing in the bureau, which are lendable. Number one. Number two,
Hmm.
massive explosion in the acceptance side. So if you look at even 5, 7 years back, credit card used to be an elite product. Even in cities like Mumbai, you will see few pockets where this will be accepted or issued. But thanks to merchant community, and
Right.
I would say a large play done by e-commerce accelerated in during COVID, it is now going into top, like beyond 100 cities. So I think so that's the second piece that there is a tailwind happening about consumer
Hmm.
adoption. And the third thing is about also given that we had a SBI card being listed in 2000 19 rather early 20, sorry, not 1920. It has kind of I mean, a lot of bankers already knew it was a very highly profitable business, but after looking at the success, a lot of people are adopting this. Now, I would say the way I want to define this opportunity, Suresh, would be that one should look at as a consumption credit as an opportunity rather than credit card as a standalone opportunity. Because
Hmm.
I sincerely believe that what we are trying to observe, tell that a younger people, wants to consume things and we can finance that. Now, I'll give you some another perspective. Like if you look at one trend which we have seen in other markets, the growth of credit card market is usually
Hmm.
very highly correlated to growth in per capita income. And I'll tell you why. Because in credit card business, on one side you need to arrive at income because that becomes a very good parameter for you to underwrite. Also, on other hand, you also need to see what is the consumption potential of this person. So per capita income, per capita GDP is actually an indicator of both. It captures consumptions, it also captures income. Hence, we have seen in
Hmm.
these in markets, these two things are correlated. In fact, if we look at market like China, which has recently seen
Hmm.
credit card adoption, the credit card market went from a 50 million credit card in 2006 to a billion credit card last year.
Wow.
A billion credit card. Okay. And the GDP per capita grew from $2,500 to $8,500. India is at $2,500. Of course, it got reduced during COVID because the
Hmm.
GDP went down. But and the reason is because at around $3,000 to $4,000, a middle class gets created in the country. In any country, we have seen in many countries this data. You look at Turkey,
Hmm.
you look at any mid-market economy which has been ahead of us. Brazil is another example. And this is where a consumption credit product gets hugely created. And usually credit card
Right.
leads that cycle. Because you know why? Because credit card is not a need-based product. Nobody gets up in the
Hmm.
morning and wants to apply for a card. It is a
Right.
classic FMCG product of banking. So majority of the people don't even think they're borrowing. They just think because the most organic thought is I'm going to take a card, I'm going to use it beyond due date and make some rewards. That's the prime reason why people take card. Later on, they discover EMI, they discover Revolve, and they discover other things. But that's the prime. So that is why the adoption of these products usually when the cycle starts is like a Coke or a Pepsi or a Lux. This is how these products get adopted in other markets. So, I'm making that we are in the beginning of this credit cycle. As
Hmm.
India become younger, GDP per capita grows. There is no reason why this will go through this massive growth. Form factor might evolve. Today it's credit card, tomorrow it could be something else. But the consumption credit product is here to stay.
Got
Another
it.
product which I'm really excited about is UPI credit. Hopefully, as and when it
Mhm.
comes in a shape, again, as a company, we would love to build that and support that for Indian consumers.
Definitely. So, could we essentially say that consumer credit as a whole, and to narrow it down, credit card as a product is a gateway drug kind of a product for a credit hungry economy to essentially get acquainted with the more mm, basically lending products?
Absolutely. I'll tell you another insight around it. I'm using consumption credit very carefully because in consumer credit you also get
Hmm.
into things like two-wheeler financing and auto loans, while consumption credit is largely unsecured in nature. Now,
Hmm.
another reason why usually we have seen adoption of these products happening in a young economy is because these products create tons of data, which
Right.
becomes bedrock on which serious products gets underwritten. Let me give you an
Hmm.
example. When I was working in a bank, I took a mortgage out and I left the bank. I came here to Pune and I'm continuing to paying my mortgage, though I was for almost 1.5 year, I had no job in between. But
Hmm.
the mortgage guy would not know. They'll continue to see my transactions very well. But my credit card transaction guy will exactly know what has changed in my life. I've shifted location. I never used Ola Uber because everywhere I travel, I had a company car waiting for me. But now I use Ola Uber in
Hmm.
a big way. My places of eating has changed. My meeting venues have changed. All of that gets captured in this. So what we call this into that, it's a much more dynamic and richer data and behavioral data, which can be used
Right.
for underwriting these customers better, especially for a market like India, because we're a young country and a lot of data footprint is yet to happen. So this
Hmm.
data becomes quite valuable for people to build their credit history early in their life. In fact, most of the developed markets, people start their journey from education loan, immediately shifting to credit cards to build credit history, so that
Hmm.
tomorrow they can access much serious products later on, like mortgages or let's say auto loans and things like that.
Right.
That's
Um,
amazing. One question I had here was since you just mentioned about the fact, and I think even Shreya's touched upon that India is a very credit hungry market right now, and not a lot of people, like you rightly mentioned, are using the consumption credit lines properly, right? And even banks, for that reason, are kind of gives the consumption credit line with a hindrance of sorts, and I think that's where the sweet spot of fintech in India lies, right? So a company like yours, and I'm going to use a very abused yet favorable word called new to credit. So new to credit customers are something that all credit companies are kind of going to when it comes to fintech, right? So when you are targeting them, what are the challenges, or if I may simplify it, what is the percentage of people who got one card as their very first credit card, and how has that journey
Okay,
been?
so cool. So the very interesting question and very relevant for a country like India. But I want to just give you some data stats. If you segment our country, 1.4 billion people, the adult population is close to 800 million people. Okay, which is in the age group between 18 to 65, which could be the borrowing age for the borrowers. Out of that, close to 500 million people have already borrowed, by the way. So, like it's a quite well printed. I'll tell you, and almost 150 million are microfinance and another 400 million are retail. The problem is that, usually in markets like US, where credit card penetration is quite high, this becomes the longest tenure product. See, there are only two products which where you can stay long. One is mortgage, second credit cards. And mortgage is very less penetrated in India. And hence, what happens is that out of 400 million, the active profile would be only 200 million.
Hmm.
So people come and go, and that's the problem to solve. And I just give you the context of new to credit. That's why I thought I'll just give us some data stats to set the context. Now, new to credit could be customers who never borrowed before, or they're also from locations where regular lenders are not there, or let's say somebody who borrowed quite long and right now there's no history available for the same. So if you're away from bureau for more than 36 months, you will be classified as new to credit by them. So this is how it works. So I think this is a very large segment, and the lenders have to solve it. How we have solved it? Let me give you an example. So first, give you some stats. On our main one card product, the new to credit would not is not more than 15 to 17%,
Mhm.
and but we have almost 30% customers, 30 to 35, who have used credit card for the first time. So they have taken credit card for the first time, but they have borrowed before. So that's a qualification. And almost 65% customers have taken other bank credit cards already. Now coming to new to credit, so we actually launched a product called secured card. Now, as of now, we work only with banks. So, we wanted to make sure that within that constraint, how can we innovate on that? So, we noticed that Indians love FDs, by the way. Everybody does FDs. But when you put money in FDs, in fact, if you go beyond top 10 cities, there is a common phenomena. Whenever you have access cash, put in FD. That's the human psyche, consumer psyche in India. But when you put money in FD, you lose liquidity
Mhm.
because your money is blocked. We say, why don't you monetize it by taking a card against it?
Mhm.
So we launched as an experiment because this allows us to also cater to new to credit now in a big way. And the second thing is, because new to credit usually get lower approval rates, you have to submit lots of documentations. But we did some innovation there. We actually give a top up line on top of that. So if you put a 10,000 rupee FD, we actually give you 11,000 rupees fixed credit line. So there is a portion of unsecured which will grow as you build your portfolio with us. You stay with us for 3 months, this 11,000 can become 15,000. Stay with us for 6 months, this 15,000 can become 30,000. Stay with us for 9 months, we might return your FD. So, this is how we innovated on that. And on this product, I'm proud to say 65% customers are new to credit.
Okay, wow.
Okay. And another 25% are, from locations where we don't do unsecured, which is, and another 20% is only the bad credit customers. Customers who have borrowed before and they did not have a good history. But the point is, since we are talking on that topic, the way bureaus operate, your data never gets deleted.
Mm.
Your data can only be get augmented. So if you have a bad history for whatever reasons, you were young, you took a loan, you did not, you really somebody lost a job, and that's why. How do you get back on the credit cycle? So this
Mhm.
is a classic product. You stay for 6, 7, 9 months. It will build your history, help people, climb back the credit ladder. But what I'm trying to say that almost 70 to 80% customers are such who actually have never borrowed before on this product. So 65% new to credit, another 20% come from beyond 100 cities, and they actually want to. And the reason is, it was a surprise to us, frankly, because then we realized that most of the merchants have crossed beyond 50 to 80 cities. So Ola is there, Uber is there, Zomato is there, Swiggy is there.
Hmm.
Cities like Ranchi, Ambala, you have like pepper fry stores are there. Cult
Okay.
Fit is reached. So I think we are riding the emergence of these merchants who are driving adoption of consumer digital payments where credit is part of it. So what I'm trying to say, we have tried to solve it through a product intervention rather than making that process more suitable for new to credit, because the point is that as a unsecured underwriter, you need to get access to information before you can underwrite.
Mm.
Uh,
Definitely.
but another piece, we are very hopeful that once account aggregator comes in, this will solve customer information and especially the bank information very, very seamlessly available for underwriters like us. Because today we have built solutions like you have to upload bank statements. Now it's a very friction experience. Now we do that, but not many people do it. I think once this comes, we were very bullish on that. We've seen the sandbox accesses, and we're very excited about the opportunity it unfolds once the PSU banks join. As of now, only private banks have joined in, so hopefully
Mm.
PSU banks will also join. And so that, if you ask me, that will open up new to credit penetration in a big way. Because this will allow because bank account information is quite rich, for underwriting.
Definitely.
And just to kind of touch base on what you just mentioned, from your experience, what are some of the user insights that you have gained, right? So, For example, me as a customer, if I'm first time credit card user, how has your user journey been in that case of customers? How have they adopted? Are they even using that? Are they looking for more credit options after having that experience?
Interesting question. So I'll tell you, you know, from our initial build, we never thought that we will have 65-70% customers already holding cards. We thought that this number will be reversed. 30% customers holding our cards, and there could be two reasons to it. One, of course, people loved our experience over vis-a-vis others. But I'll tell you, there is a bigger change happening underway. As a country, we are moving towards customers holding multiple cards. This has been a phenomenon in developed markets. In Indian markets, the human to card ratio was 1.1. Around 5 years back, it's more than 2. And in market like Bangalore and Bombay, this is already 3 plus. A lot of customers we meet who have 4 plus cards also. So why do people have so many cards? One is it's a classic phenomena. I'm like people don't take cards with a lot of thought process. It's not an involved buy. Unlike loans, you just take it because you like the offer and you take it. So I think if you ask me, one insight we've seen that customers are going to have multiple cards. So the real battle will be on wallet share rather than distribution. Just because somebody is owning my card doesn't mean that he will not own other bank cards. It's very common. So that's one. Second thing is what we have seen working very well for us, especially for new users as well, is that the app acts as a big engagement model for us. For instance, on an average, a customer does around 8 to 9 transactions, but they actually visit our app more than 19, 20 times in a month. And what are they doing? Very interesting insight. A majority of the Indians believe that when they use credit card, they end up overspending. Okay, so that's a thought process.
Yeah.
But when you look at our dashboard, you actually feel in control. And we have observed this in my wallet days also. You play back your data, your own data to back to you. You would like to transfer your transactions from physical means to digital means so that you can track your business. So you get a feeling of control. You can track spends, categories, merchants, and all that. Another insight about rewards. Now, card transactions work on two-step process. You do authorization and then you do a settlement. Most of the banks give you rewards after settlement because that's when the transaction has become legitimate, by the way. But consumer
Hmm.
understand that rewards are earned by transactions. So, in our case, we actually surface in real time in the app itself. People love that. Third thing is most of the consumers likes to pay on the due date. Again, there is a psyche that okay, I will pay on the last day so that I maximize my interest-free period. The thing is that the day you pay and then you worry about that the payment should get immediately processed, otherwise I might get late payment charges. That the people Indians hate fees, by the way. They just hate fees. People don't mind paying interest, but they hate fees. That's it's right about Indians. So in our case, and our credit card billing is a very complex one. Unlike loans where the EMIs are pre-decided, credit card you need to run daily accruals. So we have built tech stack which immediately post the payments, run accruals in real time, and release your limit. So I'm just telling you that these are the reasons. Now there is not a single reason why people shift. These are the reasons people stay. Because yeah, as I said, credit card is not a very well thought buy. You make an offer as long as it is simple. You are in the time zone. You say fine, let me take it. But they stay because of these experiences. Like so. The way I call it that we haven't built a hero feature, but we build tens of small things which improve customer experience for the customer, and that's how they stay. Of course, metal card is the only big one. People love to hold metal card, and it's a shiny metal. You take it to a shop. A lot of merchants will ask you, it's an Indian card or a abroad card, and
Definitely been
so
there.
so I think like a top of the line feature, but rest is all in the app. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
So, just building on this from, yeah, go on, go on.
just a point here that what I
Hmm.
have noticed recently is that because of the fintechs that are coming up in the credit card segment, right? आज की date में अगर मुझे credit card चाहिए, it does not take more than 15 minutes for me to get that. And it's such an impromptu purchase that it's almost like going on Amazon and buying it when you see an offer for some credit card and you apply and you get it and you can use it right there and then, right? Which was not the case when we applied from banks. I think that is also something where people are having multiple cards from. Yeah.
Yeah,
Over to you, Shreyas.
Definitely. So, what I was saying is, I could relate to a lot of things that you were saying, especially, I've been using one card for a long time now. So, a couple of things that I wanted to just, point out is when I essentially, one card was my second card that I bought, right? I mean, first one was something that I got from my salary account bank that was there. So, it was an HDFC card, and the second card that I applied for was one card. उसके बाद और तीन कार्ड आए. Abhi, I have a total of 5 cards, but I think the most used card right now is one card. And mainly the reasons I think that you said, no, that actually resonated with me, right? Instantly पता चलता है क्या है, rewards समझ में आ रहा है. Rewards are very simple and your limits get cleared instantly. You see what's happening. Full of transparency and the categorization. That is what actually makes me like, this is what I want to use right now. And that is basically one of the hero features. Like as you said, like there are multiple small hero features that you guys have built, and I could completely relate to that. Also, one thing that I've really seen, I don't know if it's the data gap between credit bureaus and borrowers, ki kya hai. That this is a very funny incident, right? So back when I started my job at HDFC, my first salary was 35,000. तभी मुझे HDFC का कार्ड भी लिया था. So लिमिट था 35,000 का, एक महीने की सैलरी का. उसके बाद 2 साल बाद मैंने वन कार्ड अप्लाई किया. I got instantly same limit. उसके बाद आई थिंक 1 साल या 2 साल बाद मैंने दूसरी जगह से भी अप्लाई किया. वो सब कार्ड पे अभी भी मेरा उतना ही लिमिट है. The only card that gave me a limit on basis on actually re-underwriting me again based on my latest salary was Amex, and it gave me at least a good multiple of my monthly salary. So बाकी सब कार्ड का तो मेरा monthly expense भी खत्म नहीं हो जाता. So I don't know what caused this phenomena,
so
but I
good
was
point you raised.
yeah.
I'll tell you what happens. So in credit card underwriting, what happens? There is a 3-stage process. So one, usually you do profile checks, and then the
Right.
second you do is ability check, which is past behavior, and third you estimate income, and your limits is a multiplier of income. Now, when you already have a one bank card, usually to simplify process for you, banks will underwrite based on your other bank limits, and they end
Right.
up putting up that limit out to you. Unless we get access to your income, it's difficult for us to estimate. Now, in the case of one card, as I say, like I'm just guessing, you would have been underwritten what we call is other bank card surrogate, that you already have a card and we give a top-up line on top of it. Now, what you touched upon is a real issue, Shreyash, because I'll tell you why it is so relevant for us. Prime age of customers taking credit card is between 23 to 28. That's the age group where you generally start a card journey. So let's say 25 on an average. Over next 10 years, this customer is going to see around 10 to 12% of annual growth in income.
Right.
On top of it, this is the time where his lifestyle will completely change. People start with shared accommodation with friends, then living on their own, get married, have kids. Usually you sustain at around 35, 36, you find a semblance on your expenses. This is the prime age. Now, as your income grows, your lifestyle changes, your limits and expenses will completely evolve. But this is what I'm seeing, that when we get access to bank account information, this life cycle management is very, very important for us to drive engagement. Otherwise, what will happen? You got a broken engagement across 4 bank cards. And
Right.
by the way, holding 4 banks is going to be a normal, but usually what people should do, or that we have observed, they will put around 70 to 80% of transaction on their primary card, another 20% on other bank cards, depending on where you have put that card on some bill payments or something, and then rest you use it occasionally. Let's say you're on Flipkart and you see an offer on that bank card, you will end up putting that. This is how people behave that. Or a big billion day sale happen and you say, fine, there is a HDFC bank offer, you will end up putting an HDFC bank card. So what I'm saying that so what happens if I'm not able to offer you the limits, what you actually need, and I'm not keep pace with your evolution of you as a customer, which is so important for a product credit card, then the engagement becomes poor. So we are really hoping that
Agreed.
see
Agreed.
today, when imagine you are on one score app and we underwrote you. If I had access to your bank account information, ideally I should have given you the Amex card. By the way, I should actually upgrade your limit based on Amex limit now. The only thing is that initially most of the banks were used to only report only utilization level, not the limits.
Hmm.
Thankfully, now Civil and Experian have been pushing banks to report limits so that it
Right. Right.
becomes a easy portfolio management exercise for other card issuers. But anyway, task for us to fix for you. But I think the missing gap
Definitely.
is this. In our business, because
Hmm.
see, in a loan business, what happens? Shreya, you ask for the
Hmm.
amount. Say, I want 3 lakh rupees. I want 5 lakh rupees. I want 2 lakh rupees. So the
Right.
bank
Right.
starts with that amount and work backwards. In a credit card, you
Hmm.
can't ask for limit. The banks decide what limit to give you, and
Right.
hence estimating the income is very important, and all that. And it's also not a negotiated product. In a loan, what happens? Let's say you ask for 5 lakhs, the bank might come and say, "Sorry, we can only give you 3 lakhs," and you say, "Fine, okay, give me 3 lakhs," or you say, "No, no, I don't want to have it." In credit card, you just given a limit. You might not like it, you might not use it, but the limit is given, and
Fair enough.
hence
Fair enough.
estimating the income is very important. That's what kicks me. That if we account aggregator comes, this is the biggest gap in digital underwriting, if you ask me today. And this is right now
Definitely.
the proprietary data sitting in the banks, which is and this will completely be available over a consent layer to any
Hmm.
digital underwriter. So it will just boom the market.
So
I'm
I
I'm
completely,
I'm personally very excited
yeah.
about it. So whatever work required there in account aggregator, I contribute in Sahimati and Mahesh, because I genuinely believe this will change the market for India.
Definitely. I think that was really insightful and I completely agree with you. Only reason I also came to know कि ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है is because those limits are not actually exact, right? So एक ने 35 दिया, दूसरे ने 40 दिया, तीसरे ने 30 दिया. And at that point of time, my salary was already double, right? 2 years down the line. So मैं सोचा साले इतना कम limit क्यों आ रहा है? But at that point of time, I was using the your one score app. जिसमें I pulled up the credit reports and I was going through कि what's happening. And then I saw that there is some kind of benchmarking happening between these limits जहाँ पे साले ये लोग actual income तो देख ही नहीं रहे कहीं पे.
बिकॉज
So
हमें
that
मिल
is
नहीं
the
रहा है ना,
reality कि it's
हमें नहीं
benchmarking is
मिल रहा.
happening.
और एक और
Right,
बात
right,
तो क्या
right.
होती है ना, जब जैसे आपने अभी 5 कार्ड ले लिए, so now we are also
Hmm.
worried about leverage. I'm like,
Right.
we also are worried about leverage, that in total actually the banking system has taken a line worth 2 lakh on you. Now if I give you an offer that, okay, here is a 4 lakh limit offer, would you like to close on that credit card? But that's not happening right now. So I think which is where we are. But you're right. What we have observed, that people end up using, given the if the experience is same, people will
Hmm.
use the card where the limit is highest, because
Definitely.
there is a natural affinity towards that, that the bank has treated me better than other banks have treated me, and
Agreed.
you
And
usually
for
end up
me
using that.
personally, this was a feedback loop, right? When I had like a limit of 35K on one card and 40K on other card, I was like, I wanted, like, the reason I applied for more cards is because I wanted a bigger credit line per month. Like, that is the reason I was applying. Because अगर मैं, let's say my family wanted to go on a vacation और मैं 1.5 लाख का trip book कर रहा था, which anyways was gonna be reimbursed to me by my family. But मेरे कार से कर रहा था because I wanted those points. तो अभी वो मेरे पास लिमिट ही नहीं था करने के लिए. So that is the reason I was applying for more cards कि मुझे थोड़ा और credit limit मिलेगा कहीं पे. अगर वो होता ही नहीं था, if I would have
So
gotten a, let's say मेरे
we are
पहले कार्ड नहीं दे दिया होता. Yeah.
so we are
Yeah, go
building
ahead.
a feature where customer can ask for higher limits,
Mm-hmm.
either temporary or permanent. Because I completely agree, especially given the age cycle I spoke about. Like, if I
Right,
would
right.
have asked you, having got the card, if I would have asked you, Shares, would you like to give me a payslip or the bank statement for a couple of months, and we will increase your limit? You won't mind that.
Mm-hmm.
You won't mind that. But for today, that interface doesn't exist. Or let's say the example you gave, that you're just booking a holiday, or you're going for a foreign holiday, of course, travel will start, and you're looking limit only, or let's say you have a wedding in your family. So you only
Mm-hmm.
want limit for, let's say, 2 months. Or let's
Right.
say Diwali is coming and you end up buying a big TV for your house. So you just want limit for, let's say, a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
All of those use cases people have to support. If we want consumer credit to become all pervasive, we have to build for that. Otherwise, straight jacketed product won't work. So I guess a lot of work for us to do, but I think I completely agree what you went through as a customer, and it's a very frustrating one because like you've got actually 2 lakh card, 2 lakh limit, but split across 5 cards, and what do you do?
Right, right.
Yeah, what do you do? And I'll tell you some stats. Average credit card limit in India is around 85,000 rupees only,
Mm-hmm.
but the median credit limit is around 60,000 only.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, a lot of work to be done. Now, if you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
60,000, 65,000 rupees credit limit, you are talking about, let's say, a guy holding a 40 to 35 to 40,000 rupees disposable income
Mm-hmm.
because you will apply 1.5 to 2 times multiply.
Right.
So, and like it has to change every 6 months or every year. So as people, start spending more.
Definitely, definitely. Sagarika, over to you for
Yeah.
any.
I think I picked up on a lot of points, but considering the time we have, just one, probably the final question is you spoke about the leverage part that you have to take care about the leverage. I was just wondering, is the leverage only from credit cards or other products like BNPL as well? And when it comes to BNPL, what's your view on people talking about using BNPL more and credit card is a past thing? Your views on that?
So, very interesting point. When we look at leverage, we do of course look at all loans, but usually BNPL is too small to get counted on. Just to give you a sense of numbers, even credit card industry is close to, like 85,000 crore to 1 lakh crore monthly usage.
Mm-hmm.
And if I add a PL product, it will be very high. So I think compared to that, BNPL is still small right now. But I will give you a generic view on PNPL because at certain level it is also used by consumers to do consumption credit.
Mm-hmm.
So purely from a product perspective, actually BNPL is a better product to sell. You know why? Because it's a need-based product. You take BNPL because you're looking for that TV or a phone or let's say like any other product which you would not have bought if you did not have access to BNPL. BNPL, EMI, mean, let's use them interchangeably. The
Mm-hmm.
problem with those products is how do you build engagement on that? Because on such a small loan, nobody can make money. I did my previous company, I built on small value loans, which was around 25,000, 20,000 rupee loan. So I think companies which are able to bring engagement, they will win. So I would say look at Bajaj; they are able to cross-sell many more products. On an acquisition perspective, it is a better product, but it is not a destination product to make money. You got to build something else to make money. That's one. Second thing is, I would completely agree that BNPL will grow. And the reason is another reason is because Indians understand EMI really well. It has been like it's very easy for you to understand about installments. Uh, few insights about that business. By the way, if you compare to global markets, uh, BNPL uh, also took off because credit card did not offer EMIs in market like US. Many people are not aware about this. In US, either you use transact or revolve. There's no EMI. While in India, EMI is a very well established product. Even at point of sale, thanks to people like Panel Labs, you can convert transaction on EMI, 0%
Mm-hmm.
EMI, and all that. Second thing is a lot of markets EMI, BNPL or EMI products were not reported to bureau, so it was like a hidden product, which gave a lot of data advantage to issuers. Whosoever did do PNL, they kind of build proprietary data sets, which was not available to any other lenders.
Mm-hmm.
In India, it is not like that. Everything is bureau reported, so the data is visible. The third thing is in India, spreads are too high between banks and non-banks. So, which is not the case in other markets because capital markets are very
Right.
efficient there. In India, banks have a
Mm-hmm.
significant advantage in cost of funds because of current accounts, savings account base. And second thing is which creates a huge advantage for banks to, like price the loans better. So in credit business, all of these matters a lot. So I believe that BNPL is a better product to sell because it's a need-based product. Difficult to make a sustainable business model unless you are able to crack engagements. And I haven't seen anyone cracking it other than Bajaj so far. So, but we are very hopeful for that. As a company, we have launched EMI, by the way, and people are using EMI at the point of sale as well as in-app post-transaction. And we would love to build more BNPL or other stroke EMI products for futures for customers where other. So clearly bullish on that, but I don't think any like threat or overlap to credit cards. It's just too small as of now to worry about. In fact, I'll give you on that tidbit. If you look at companies like Affirm, Klarna, SoFi, all of them have launched cards, by the way.
Okay.
You know why?
Definitely.
Because to drive engagement.
Yeah.
So like someone has to crack engagement for them to build a sustainable business. So that's why even after they got acquired by Square now, and they're actually launching a payment product around it.
That completely makes sense. Shiraz, if you have any other questions, otherwise I think we can close.
No, I think this was really insightful. Learned a lot, and finally got closer to my long-standing query. But I think this was really brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Chandra. This was really helpful. And yeah, I mean, it was a pleasure speaking with you.
Awesome, man. I know you guys are doing great job in building the fintech ecosystem. I know specifically for
Thank you.
Pune, you're contributing a lot. Appreciate that and wish you good luck. As across all categories of financial services, penetration is low. So I'm sure whatever we all do collectively will look good. So all the best. It was nice speaking to you guys.